This is the MSI RTX 3080 Ti Supreme X. Let's give it a twist. Let's slip this bad boy into this Singapore $50 PC case. Let's go!
But first off, we're going to introduce the case itself. This is the DEEPCOOL Matrexx 40. How it got to here was this. Quite a while back, we had DEEPCOOL got in touch with me and Mel, so I decided to be a little bit mischievous. I threw a curveball at them. I want a micro ATX chassis that can A. I can mount the biggest GPUs that there are on the market. B. I also can mount a 240mm AIO liquid cooler on the top. And C. It must be less than SGD50. So I'm not one to take things at their word, so let's find out if we can actually do all of that.
Okay, so these are the parts that we're going to use for the build. First things first, we have the 5800X. I don't know if you can see this guy. RAM, we have 16 gigs of G.Skill Trident Z Neo, our favorite. Motherboard, also our favorite, MSI B5TM Motor Wi-Fi. CPU cooler, EK240, quite a mess here. And we have fan hub because we are going to change out the fans, add in 4 Typhoon Saturn fans.
Yep, there's 4 of them.
Yep. Empty tray for your
The
screws.
screws later, more screws.
Thermal paste. SSD XPG 1TB.
This is the radiator S50 Lite.
Mass storage 2TB WD green.
Because we want to be able to see how this case will handle a typical setup of a SSD plus a hard disk drive.
And games these days take a lot of space.
Yep.
And powering on, we have the Seasonic Focus Plus 750W, right?
First off, I'm going to get the side panels off. So both screws here are captive. So slide off. Pops up like that. Captive screws means less screws go missing. So the same goes for this side as well. Off they go. Okay, right, so now we have the whole case itself. This is the bag with all the screws and the manual, that kind of thing. What I like to do is get this out first. Right, so we have the manual here, which isn't really much of a manual, but gets the job done. I like the fact that they are pretty generous with the cable ties. Kudos to them. So alright, when you have casing screws come in the back like this, what I like to do is to get like the bottom half of like a name card holder. So all the screws you need are there. We're gonna install some additional front chassis fans. So let me get the front off. Okay, the case only comes with one fan. This one right behind here. Can't tell the specifics of this fan. But since it's a $50 case, don't get your hopes up. For our build, I'm gonna swap out this fan anyway. 1 RGB fan to the back and 3 to the front here. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, for this case, the hard disk cage actually sits here. So since I'm gonna mount one hard disk inside there, so let's get this cage out first. Okay, cage. Hard disk comes out. Let's get the rest of the wiring in. Okay. 3, 4. Okay, so SATA cable is in. Set switch on the power switch. There's no power LED as far as I can see on this case, so yeah, that connector remains open. Okay, so right, now that we have the motherboard outdated, let's get the power supply in. So this is the power supply. Power supply fan points downwards. The Seasonic GX750 is one of the shorter power supplies that you can get. Should fit in right quite easily. Power supply is in. Alright, so the 8-pin CPU power is gonna go here. The 24-pin here. Right, very important, the GPU power cables. They will also go in through that little hole down there as well. And last but not least, this is my SATA power, so this goes to the hard drive. Right, so now we are left with trying to resolve the spaghetti, which is all of these cables. So first off, these are the cables that are coming from my front fans. The fan power header. It's 2. Okay. So that takes care of the fans. Okay, so first off, these are daisy chain, so thank God, no need for splitters. Right, we come to the biggest, baddest boy in the room, the 3080 Ti. So, we've already proven that the 240mm radiator fits on top, no problem. But this guy, at more than 33 cm long, is one of the longest, if not the longest, NVIDIA Ampere AIB card that you can get. Does it fit? And the answer is... Whoa! It fits! But I'll call it one of those cases of, oh shit, that was close. Just look at the clearance between the fan and the GPU itself.
Hey guys, we have done the build, so let's now go on to some gameplay benchmarks, all at 4040p, ultra high settings and with ray tracing turned on. Okay, so this is the first game, Dirt 5. You can see we are having a very comfortable number of FPS for gameplay, 145 to 150 FPS. This game uses about 6 gigs of VRAM. One big thing to point out is 390 watts of power, which is quite a lot considering that we only have a 750 watt power supply in our build. As we go on to the daylight, slightly better because of one-on-one race, less cars, still around the 145 to 150 mark. Very toasty RTX 3080 Ti indeed. Okay, this is game number 2, Metro Exodus. So when indoors, you're getting very nice frame rates, 170, 180. You can see the place where the mother and son talking to each other. Very nice ray tracing, shadows and lighting on the wall. Good use of ray tracing effects, especially on the 3080 Ti where you have good amount of VRAM, amount of ray tracing cores on the card. Even when you go outdoors into the snowy areas, you're getting very good frame rates where you start to shoot some monsters. Slightly better than the 3080, but of course still losing out the 3090. The game looks really good. You see the nice flurry of snow when you're breathing, the amount of mist, glare on your mask, and the amount of details that you can see on the walls, your snow-covered tracks. It looks a lot awesome because when you have RT turned on and when the sunlight shines on the thing, the amount of illumination is done very well, very natural and not harsh at all. Okay, game number 3, Call of Duty Cold War. Yep, so we start off when we enter the helicopter. A very nice frame rates of 70-80, managing to do really well above 60 FPS. But the moment you start to leave the ground and all the action kicks in, bullets flying off your cannon, you are getting less than about 70-80 FPS. Still very playable. You take a hit, but it makes for a very spectacular air to ground assault. As you get to close quarter combat, yeah, you're getting your 90 to 100 FPS. So as we leave the ground and we take off to the skies again, we're going to take a hit with the FPS again. But you can see with all the colorful vistas, the greenery, the water, 14 gigs of VRAM used in this game. Yeah, burning out with 350 watts. Very hot, almost 100% GPU usage in this game. Okay, so let's go on to our last title, the most demanding game of the 4, Cyberpunk 2077, 1440p RT or DLSS quality. The 3080 Ti is back to using about 400 watts of power from the PSU. Not much of VRAM usage compared to COD Cold War, but still quite a lot. Interesting, comfortable 71 degrees at 1440p. So as we drive along with our spanky new car, maintaining the same frame rate even we get to shooting action. But as usual, Cyberpunk 2077 looks pretty amazing with all the ray tracing turned on. You can see all the illumination, all of the shadows and lighting. Yeah, everything just looks very colorful and shiny. A place where you may want to live if you live up to 2077. Better than a 3080 here, but still not comparable to a 3090 because the 3090 still has more VRAM. 3090 does a lot better at 4K, but as a 1440p card, the 3080 Ti really did quite a number on Cyberpunk 2077. So, a 5600X and an RTX 3080 Ti Supreme rigs for a very awesome high-end PC build. There are a few things to take note in our DEEPCOOL Matrexx 40 case. The RTX 3080 Ti is already close to the tree fence in front. We wouldn't really recommend you to put such a big tree slot cut in such as a small case, but should you want to do so, it still can be done. And also the other thing is that there's so much clearance left for the GPU bracket at the bottom. It really is minimal, so likewise, if you really want to squeeze such a big card in such a small case, do your best, but if you face such issues, we really warn you so. Anyway, if you like this video, if you like our high-end build, make sure to give us a thumbs up. We are going to feature the next GPU soon, the 3070 Ti. So make sure to come back to that, subscribe to our channel. And if you want to know how does the 3080 perform, you can do so in this video. And with that, thank you for watching and we shall see you in the next video. Bye!